You're live.
Welcome, everybody, to Transcendent, the weekly Facebook Live broadcast of San Antonio in black, white, and brown, which you now know is a DBA under Outpouring Missions International. There has been an expansion on that overarching ministry that will include a youth empowerment school. I'll say something about that because of what's going on in the news tonight. The Empowerment Center Network, which deals with the parents of those students, as well as SABWB and our SABWB Action. It's time for that to come online. SABWB Action will be a 501c4 that will allow us to promote proper and qualified candidates for servant leadership in our city and county in Bexar County. SABWB focuses on the city and on municipalities around and on Bexar County. So we're excited about the development of all of those things. Thank you for joining me tonight for Transcendent. As I said, it's our weekly Facebook Live broadcast. And I do need your partnership. Thank you for those of you who are already partnering with us. We appreciate what you are doing to strengthen our hands and allow us to be a strength to the community of San Antonio and to every one of you that are edified by the things that we're doing with SABWB. Mark your calendars for a couple of dates this month. Let me go ahead and get those in your thinking right now. The first one I want to alert you to is coming up on Valentine's Day, actually, February the 14th. Anita Kegley and the Church and Politics is putting on a luncheon, and the luncheon will be at Tower City Church. My friend, Pastor Buddy Rattray, that guy, man, I ain't seen him in a long time, but Buddy's heart is intense after the things of God, and he dresses to the nine. I'm, I'm as excited to see what I was going to be dressed on the 14th of February. But meet us at Tower City Church at 9 a.m. that morning, and we will go until 1 o'clock, 9 a.m. till 1. You'll get a welcome from Pastor Rattray at 9:30, 9 a.m. to 9:30 is registration. Make sure you're in and seated and all that. Then Pastor Rattray will welcome you at 9:30. And after that, Anita Kegley will stand, and you'll know who she is. And then my friend from Laredo, Pastor Jorge Tovar, you'll never forget him once you see him. He wears a cowboy hat. He's a short guy, wears a cowboy hat, full mustache and beard. Uh, he is a doer. If I say anything about Pastor Tovar, I will tell you that he is a doer. He's the one responsible for, not solely responsible, but he certainly is a major catalyst at the border between San Antonio and Mexico to arouse the church and cause them to move to the polls to vote. And different outcomes have been happening along the border because of Pastor Tovar. So you're not just coming to see some faces and names. These folks are here in our city and outside, having tremendous impact on the culture. As you know, SABWB's objective is to shape the culture, not singularly, but as a part of the culture shaping mechanism here in the city of San Antonio, partnering with folks like Anita Kegley at Church and Politics and Pastor Rattray and Pastor Tovar. Pastor Tovar and I have been together many occasions, particularly in Austin, and he's come right here in San Antonio and spoke at our San Antonio Black, White, and Brown annual conference this past year and did an incredible job with it too. Jonathan Sedaniel will also from Unite SA is there. Jonathan's a homegrown San Antonio from the San Antonian from the South Side, but the anointing of God is on his life, and he's a young man too, so he's in that arena of burgeoning young leadership here in our city. And then Alan Parker, of course, of the Justice Foundation, Many of you may not know, but um, Allen was the legal representation for Doe v. Bolton and Roe versus Wade. Those women in Doe v. Bolton and Roe v. Wade, those women wanted to go back to the court system and overturn the abortion cases. Their cases were used as landmark cases to start the bloodshed of the innocent in our nation and bring us really under judgment that we're still paying for as a nation. Ellen represented both of those women. They're both and the role of Roe v. Wade were both led back into the court system by Ellen Parker, and Ellen has been working tirelessly in the legal space to make sure that the kingdom of God has a foothold and has a prominence. Mike Ramirez, who I don't know as well, I'm interested to meet Mike. He's a San Antonio Patriots. He'll be there, as well as Ben Kine. Ben Kine leads an organization called Christians Engaged. I highly recommend that you show up at Tower City Church on Valentine's Day morning. You may be off that morning, but it'd be a great time for you to spend the morning, get some information, some anointing in you, and then take your sweetheart out that evening. So Ben Kine will be with us. Bunny Wallace. Bunny she's from Llano, Texas. It's going west beyond Castroville, but not quite to Del Rio in that stretch of land out there. She's a warrior. I know Bunny is a warrior. I've been with her on a number of occasions too. She just found something in the libraries here in Texas that was being passed off as educational items with actually pornography. And she awakened the whole nation to what was actually happening with all of that. And you as parents in that meeting as well, just pulling back the covers and letting you see what is being done to our children in the current. I have much to say about that. So much so that things have to change. Pastor Gene Leffler, many of you know Pastor Gene. He's established here in the city as a man of prayer. He also pastors a church, River of Life Church, but he leads Lighthouses of Prayer International. He will also be there. And then Alan Hamilton with the Network for Patriots that is concentrating on the purity of our voting system. You realize that if we don't have a system that accurately, without manipulation, case right now, as we're finding out from what has happened the 2020 as well, that what you wanted to happen was manipulated. This is woefully manipulated to rob you, the American citizen, to rob you of the right to choose your leaders. Gerrymandering with the area residing where you vote, or how many, who in representation, the number of representation that you get at the federal level. All of that is right now under revision. So please be there. Listen to Alan Hamilton on February the 14th. And then you're going to have break for lunch. I will be competing with your eating I'm the keynote speaker for that day at 11:45. We'll pick that up. It'll be a stirring. Good evening, Isaac. And Pastor Choi, good to see you on here. Mary Bell, thank you guys for tuning in. Mark those dates on your calendar. Saturday, February 14th. 9 a.m. It's a week. There's no work required. Come on out at 9 a.m. and I'll be the keynote address at 11:45. But it's a lot to know and do prior to that. All of this, the reason I'm telling you about it, one is because we care about what others are doing in the city, and we want to strengthen their work and to do what we can to make sure that what they are aiming at is a success. After I finish the keynote address, candidates will also be in the room, and you can hear from what their positions are on certain things and how they're uh, structured and what they will do when they reach the pinnacle of serving leadership here in our city as a council, state representative, or all those spaces that need godly people in them. You have an opportunity to hear what. So take this seriously. February 14th, Valentine's Day. Take this seriously and come out to Church and Politics. Here's the 220 11220 Perrin Bidle, San Antonio, 9:30 to 1. Devote that morning to something super important, especially now, as we see things. So thank you for all of you who are supporting SABWB. Thank you for those of you who have your eyes on what is happening in the city. And together, we'll make a mark on our generation that cannot be erased. We'll leave a legacy of greatness for our children and for our children's children. But that doesn't happen automatically. It happens because we intentionally move the ball forward. So thank you so much for that. I want to talk to you tonight about part 2 of the pulpit and the perimeter. Part 2 of the pulpit and the perimeter. Last time I was dealing with this idea of the perimeter. The perimeter is the boundaries. The boundaries. The nation has been woefully assaulted over the last 4 years in the Biden administration. Some estimates as high as above 20 million people, above 20 million people have illegally come into the country, above 20 million. And an effort and security by DHS and ICE move those 20 plus million people is being met with resistance that's almost mind-boggling. I'm going to show some of that today, and the depth to which those that want to resist the removing of invaders out of our land, the the extent to which they have gone to make sure that those people who entered the country illegally get to stay here. Now, why would somebody want illegal people, illegal aliens to stay in the country? Why? Well, one good reason is for apportionment. Apportionment. Please remember that word. The word apportionment has to do with the number of representatives that the people living in the U.S. Now, notice I did not say citizens. I said that the representation for people living in the U.S. So when the census is done, at this time anyway, I think in the next 4 years that may change, and I personally believe it should change in that the census, as far as apportionment is concerned, should be restricted to citizens of the nation, not to just individuals. But right now, currently, it is based on individuals. So if a city received, as you saw over the last 4 years, millions of people come across a porous border, and then you saw this with your own eyes, that the government took those people and put them on planes. We saw them right here in the city of San Antonio. Come in on a plane, be gathered, go, be flown to other states, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles. They were pumping those people into those area illegals. Why? Because representation at the federal level is based on uh, population, not citizenship. It's based on population. So if there's a whole bunch of people, you get the opportunity to have more representatives at the federal level. But if you don't have people that agree with your agenda, that is actually a part of the voting body, then you need to pump in some bodies to boost your number of representatives coming from those areas. And then you can wield that power at the federal level to get things done the way you want them, the way you want them to be done. This is what has been happening over the last 4 years, because the policies of the party, the Democratic Party particularly, I'm going to use party names and stuff like that, although I'm not a party person. I believe in government. I believe in godly government. I believe that godly leaders ought to be in government. All of that stuff is important to me. However, uh, people can get so wired on either blue or red that that's all they see. They see either blue or red. Uh, for you and I in the kingdom of God, what we should be seeing is not the blue or the red. We should be seeing how does the kingdom of God, how is the kingdom advanced and benefited by what is happening in either two of the political spaces? Are the things that are important to God important in those political arenas? If they are important in those political arenas, then those are the ones you want to be in power. If the principles of the kingdom is not important in those political arenas, then those are the people you want to keep out of power. So this is the way the body of Christ should view it, rather than being so Republican because your daddy was and his daddy was and his daddy was, or Democrat because your daddy was and his daddy was and his daddy was, more than being dyed in the wool around a political party. In America, we treat political parties like we treat athletic teams, that we go with them no matter what. That's a dangerous position to take. It's a very dangerous position, but many have taken it, and now we're contending how we handle ourselves in that space. But tonight I want to break with you. I know I didn't get on with you in 20. It's now almost 8:40. Roll into this with you tonight for the next 40 minutes to talk to you part two about the pulpit and the perimeter. Last month, last week, I spoke to you about this, but dates on your calendar, and I only told you about one, February the 14th. So let me tell you about the second date. The second date is February the 26th. It's the fourth Thursday of the month. We normally have our mixers on the fourth Thursday of the month. It's the 26th this month. The 26th. At that mixer, the SABWB mixer, will be held Sunshine Ranch Road. I give you an update on what's happening with the Youth Empowerment School. And I must tell you, the design team for the school, I would pit them against anybody. They are thought provokers. They are results oriented. They're incredibly skilled in their own right. And they are putting that I have in my life the launching of Youth Empowerment School and work of ministries to families will a tremendous force for change like few. Like we are committed, we're committed to the process of bringing our children up to speed, putting them in the forefront of what from the vein of their education, their knowledge, what that's about. You're going to be able to see all of that going on. So I'm extremely, extremely thankful for that design team. On the 26th, you're going to hear about all the catch-ups. By that time, so if you are interested in recovering your child from having opted out of the educational process, they're no longer stimulated by the educational process, or worse yet, they're being left behind by that process. There is a fortress being built for you and for your family. There's a fortress being built here in the city of San Antonio called Youth Empowerment School. In fact, I want to now, I won't do it right now. I won't do it right now. Just remember that date, 2/26/26. 26th of February this month at 3806 Sunshine Ranch Road you'll meet the design team. You will also see where we have come so far. You'll see how far we have yet to go for an opening day to happen on the 7th of September, 2026 for Youth Empowerment School. And this thing is just swelling on the inside of me. I remember my friend Dennis Peacock. Some of you will know him from Strategic Network. I met him probably more than that. I met him 40 years ago. Yeah, about 40 years ago. Pastor Bud Gardner, my spiritual father, was in ministry at the time at Faith Outreach Center. He had founded Faith Outreach Center and was leading, and it was growing by leaps and bounds. One of the men that he brought in to speak from an apostolic point of view about how we should be looking at the world was Dennis Peacock. And Dennis made a statement that has stuck with me for some reason. It's not scriptural, but it is pictorial. And, when you get pictures, they stay with you. When language paints a picture, it stays with you. Dennis said that when you are seated with the purposes of God, it's like becoming impregnated with the sperm of a whale. After a while, that thing's going to outgrow you. It's going to outgrow you, and you're going to need others to come around you and help you birth into the earth what has been seeded into your heart. God has so arranged the system that we actually need each other to be better. We need each other. That's happening in profound ways right now. Come on the 26th of February. Meet the design team, see where we are going with the school, and it will blow your mind. It will blow your mind. It will blow your mind. The things that's happening, the unfolding of how things are going on is just amazing to me. This is something that God has purposed that should come forth, and because God purposed it, supernaturally things are happening to make that happen. I do need your prayers, of course, and I do need your financial support. All of that is necessary. But where God guides, God provides. Where God leads, God feeds. And he will cause the resources to come. He will call forth the resources, every bit of it in abundance, so that we will not only have what we need for yes, but we'll be able to strengthen the hands of many others because of God's abundant work upon us. And we're so grateful to be in that flow, in this third 30 portion of my life. I'm grateful to God for it. So I began with you last week. We're going to jump into the meat of the subject now. and start talking to you about the pulpit and the parameter and perimeter. We the perimeter. We have been looking at the perimeter, or the
Hello, my name is Kathy Carizales, and I'm here to invite you to the I Pray experience here in person at 8023 Vantage Drive, Suite 313, or watch us on Facebook Live at SABWBTX. We are excited to pray for the needs of the city or our government, and we hope that you can join us, like I said, online or in person. It is the Lord's desire that we would spend time with Him and get His job done on earth. God bless you, and I hope to see you.
All right, I'm here in Rwanda, and we're up in the coffee farms right now. So I've been telling you about the upcoming Be Easy Coffee organic premium coffee. And these are beans that I have in my hand. These are brand new beans. There's already a harvest already in place. These are just the early parts of the second harvest. And these beds that you see that are now empty will be full of organic premium coffee beans. And you have an opportunity to get a bag of Be Easy coffee for yourself. And we're going to work, of course, as I said before, on the San Antonio blend for SABWB. You'll be able to get your coffee mug and sip premium organic coffee. I told you it was coming, and it's on the way. Okay. Finally, Be Easy Coffee is here. Within a few weeks, you'll be able to purchase Be Easy Coffee online. And as you sip premium organic coffee, you'll be supporting SABWB and lifting nations halfway around the world out of poverty and out of disease. Your cooperation and your partnership with SABWB and Be Easy Coffee is more than coffee. It's coffee with a cause.
Hello, my name is Kathy Carizales, and I'm here to invite you to the I Pray experience here in person at 8023 Vantage Drive, Suite 313, or watch us on Facebook Live at SABWBTX. We are excited to pray for the needs of the city or our government, and we hope that you can join us, like I said, online or in person. It is the Lord's desire that we would spend time with Him and get His job done on earth. God bless you, and I hope to see you.
Okay, I hope I'm back. Am I back?
Yes, you're back.
Okay, so I'm not sure where I cut out there, but I was telling you that Paul was on Mars Hill in Acts chapter 17, and in verse 23, he saw a marker to the unknown God, and he says, "Therefore, you're ignorantly worshiping him." He's the one I want to introduce to you. I talked to you about that last week, but the point of emphasis was in verse 26, where I want to go right now. I'll just read 24 through 26. God that made the world and all things therein, seeing that he is Lord of all, he is Lord of heaven and earth, dwelleth not in temples made with hands, neither is worship with men's hands, as though he needed anything, seeing he giveth to all life and breath and all things, all that comes from God. And hath, verse 26, and hath made of one blood all nations of men for to dwell on the face of the earth, and hath determined the times before appointed, and the bounds or the perimeters of their habitation. The boundaries or the perimeters of our habitation have been established by God. And it's important that people who preach and teach the gospel understand that God has determined the bounds of their habitation. I want you to go with me very quickly now to Deuteronomy. No, let's go first to Genesis chapter 15. Genesis chapter 15. And what you'll see, first of all, I want you to understand that the earth is the Lord's, the fullness thereof, the people and they that dwell therein. The earth is the Lord's. Now, if you don't start with that, you're going to have a problem with the rest of it. If you don't start with that premise that the earth is the Lord. So let me give you the address. Let me give you the address for that. The earth is the Lord's, because that's important, folks. Um, as I said, if you don't start with that, then the earth is for whomever can take it. Psalms 24 and verse 1. Psalms 24 and verse 1. Go there with me. Psalms 24 and 1. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein, because or for he, the Lord, hath founded it upon the seas and established it upon the floods. It belongs to him. He's the creator of the earth. It belongs to God. And it's important to remember that. Starting anywhere else will not allow you to arrive. If you leave that out of the equation, when you're dealing with the perimeter, when you're dealing with the nations, the boundaries, if you leave that out, you're going to have a very difficult time trying to understand the migration, the global migration that is happening right now. You must begin with Psalms 24. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness, everything in it is his. The world and they that dwell therein. Everybody who's dwelling on the planet is God's, because you remember Acts 17:26, the verse we just looked at. It says that God has from the blood of one man made all nations of men. And I told you last week when we were talking about this, that out of that section of scripture comes this notion of the brotherhood of man, the brotherhood of man, that humankind all came to this earth by God's appointment and in God's time, even though some of the ways people came into the earth were not the most suitable conditions. Some came by way of rape. When I say that, I think about James Robinson. Some of you know him. His mother was raped by the star player on the football team. And James is a result of that, but James is fed. He grew up and moved into ministry and fed millions of people and saved millions of souls. Although the process of his entering into the earth was not the best, in fact, it was one of the worst. Yet that situation of his coming into the earth in that way didn't life say that God hated James at the start. In fact, in that negative chose James and appointed to his life a tremendous work to be done, that millions of people have their lives have been impacted and saved and fed and housed and kept from premature death by stuff. Because a rape victim didn't destroy her baby. She had that lived to change the world. God has from the blood of one man made all nations and men for the dwelling face of the earth, determined beforehand the bounds or the perimeters of their habitation. So let's see, has God done that? he has. Uh, Go to Genesis with me now. Genesis chapter number, and I'll start the reading in verse 18. Genesis 15 and 18. Let me back up a little bit, just because this is when Abram and God is going through this covenant. This is several chapters, beginning at chapter 12 all the way to chapter 22. Reading those chapters help you on the formation of a nation. But let me break in here in the 12th. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and lo, horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said unto Abram, know of a surety, he being God, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in the land that is shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And that's for what happened. God sees what's going to happen, and he tells Abram, this is what's going to happen. And also, that nation whom thou shalt serve will I judge. The one that was going to ill-treat Abram's people was a nation that God said he's because of how they handled God's people. It's important to remember that. Afterward, he said, they shall come out with great substance, and thou shalt go into thy fathers in peace, and shall be buried in a good old age. But in the fourth generation, they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. God was going to judge this based on their iniquitous works, but they had not come, their iniquity hadn't piled to the sufficient degree for that judgment. At that past, when the sun went down and it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace and a burning lamp. And the same day, the Lord made covenant with Abraham. Verse 18 is where we're going. With Abram, saying, seed have I given this land. Start with Psalm 24. The earth is the Lord's, the world, and they that dwell therein. You must start with that premise. Because it is God's, then God to apportion it to whomever he chooses. I said to you before that God even uses people and nations who know nothing about him, don't regard him in any way. They defy him. And yet, as in the case of Egypt, they fulfilled what God said. They afflicted the children of Israel 450 years. God judged the nation. You know that it's replete in the book of Exodus how he did that. And they issued the nation of Israel out. But in verse 18, it says that God says to Abram, I've given you this land from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates. The Kenites and the Kenizzites and the Cadmonites and the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Rephaims and the Amorites and the Canaanites and the Girgashites and the Jebusites. Bishop Carlton Pearson used to say the mosquito bites and everything else. uh, they were currently living in the land that God had just told Abram, I'm going to give this to you and your seed. I want you to understand this. Lord, help me. You and I must understand that when God has apportioned a person, a nation, whether it's a person, a thing, or a nation, a territory, he doesn't need the consent of the present occupants. When God determines what's going to happen, he does not need the consent of the present occupants. And in many cases, if he sought it, he wouldn't get it. Because they have determined this is where our people are going to stay. And yet Psalms 24 looks everybody in the face and says that the earth is the Lord's, the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. For he has founded it upon the seas, and he established it. He founded it and he establishes it. So it's his. So he says to the children of Israel, I've given you that boundary. It's in more detail in other places in scripture where he has outlined where the children of Israel would have on the face of the earth. But they're not the only ones. They're not the only ones to whom God has apportioned, uh, to whom God has apportioned land in the scripture. In Deuteronomy, the second chapter, the fifth verse, Deuteronomy chapter 2, verse 5 says, I'll read up from that just a little bit. Deuteronomy, the second chapter, uh, I'll start in verse 2, Deuteronomy 2, 2. And the Lord spake unto me, saying, Ye have this mountain long enough, turn you northward. Command thou the people, saying, You are to pass through the coast of your brethren, the children of Esau, which dwell in Mount Seir. Listen to this. And they shall be afraid of you. Take ye good heed unto yourselves, therefore. Verse 5. Mote not with them. This is the children of Israel. Being led this time by Moses through the wilderness. God says to him, I'm going to take you this way. These are Esau's. These are your kin. Don't meddle with them, for I will not give you of their land. God says, I will not give you of their. No, not so much as a foot breadth, because I have given to Esau for a possession. You shall not meet from them for money, that they may eat, and you shall also buy water from them, that you may drink. For the Lord thy God hath blessed thee in all the works of thy hand.
Your audio is breaking up a little bit.
So he says to them, you're going to go in this boundary. The boundary I'm going to give you. It's mine to give. The earth is mine. But I don't meddle with these people, because I'm not going to give you anything of them.
You need to plug in your phone. Your audio is going out.
I'm saying that my phone is plugged in. It's plugged in. I'm saying it because the nations, the determination of the nations, are not just set by men. God has determined.
I'm going to go to commercial. Come back in. Here's your audio.
Hello, my name is Kathy Carizales, and I'm here to invite you to the I Pray experience here in person at 8023 Vantage Drive, Suite 313, or watch us on Facebook Live at SABWBTX. We are excited to pray for the needs of the city or our government, and we hope that you can join us, like I said, online or in person. It is the Lord's desire that we would spend time with Him and get His job done on earth. God bless you, and I hope to see you.
So we had a little difficulty with the audio there to go out and come back in. Hopefully that's cleared up.
Perfect.
And
Perfect now.
so let me continue with our thought here that the nations, even those nations who don't have any regard for God, they don't believe Psalms 24:1 is where they should begin. The earth is not the Lord's. The earth they consider is theirs. If they have the strength to take it, they take it. Such an attitude does. Last time I was telling you that Nebuchadnezzar in the book of Daniel had a dream, had a thought. It says the thoughts were just in the thoughts of his head. What shall be hereafter? And God showed him a dream that he couldn't do anything with, but it troubled him. The dream troubled him, you recall. And once the interpretation came to him, what God had identified to him was world dominions. These were kingdoms that would have global impact. The first of which was his own, Babylon. Um, I think it's important just for us, go with me over to the book of Daniel, and let's just take a quick look. By the way, this book is so important to you. The Bible is so important. The second chapter of Daniel's. The second chapter of the book of Daniel. In verse 5, he says to the Chaldeans, the soothsayer, these are all the 1-800 number people. These are all the tarot card readers and all of that. He had told them because he had lumped them all together. See, the king had lumped all those folks together. All of them claimed supernatural expression. All of them claimed to be able to know what the natural mind does not know. So as a king, he just lumped them all together and said, and he lumped them together with Daniel and the others that were truly prophetic. And when he said to them, I want you to tell me the dream that I had and the meaning of it, and they said, like, you got to tell us the dream and then we'll tell you the interpretation. He said, no, if you're supernaturally plugged in, you should be able to retrieve my dream and be able to retrieve the meaning of the dream and tell me. Because if you don't tell me, I'm gonna fill all of your houses with poop and chop all your children up. This is what he said. This is what he said. But then Daniel, of course, requested, hey, let's go to prayer. And he did with his friends, and they came back with an answer. In chapter 2, verse 24. Therefore Daniel went unto Arioch, whom the king had ordained to destroy the wise men of Babylon. He went and said thus unto him, destroy not the wise men of Babylon. Bring me before the king, and I will show unto the king the interpretation. Then Arioch brought in Daniel before the king in haste and said thus unto him, I have found a man in the captives, a man of the captives of Judah, that will make known unto the king the interpretation. The king answered and said to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, art thou able to make known unto me the dream which I have seen and the interpretation thereof? And Daniel answered in the presence of the king and said, the secret, listen to this, the secret which the king hath commanded cannot be, which king hath demanded, cannot the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, and the soothsayers show the king. You have asked these guys to do something that is outside of their territory. But there is a God in heaven, and he revealeth secrets and to make known unto the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days. Now I want to because I want to show you a video tonight before we part. The last 4 years in this country, an invading force, up to 20 million by some people's estimations, illegals came into the country, flooded into the country from through our southern border, but came, according to Border Patrol, they were not all coming from Mexico. In fact, they came from over 60 other nations that came into our nation, flooding it with 20 to 25 million. And remember what I said to you about apportionment? They sent these people into certain places. They didn't send them into red states where the Republicans would have had their apportionment would have been larger based on those numbers. They sent them into what is referred to as blue states. So in the blue states, you got all these people. Therefore, you can get more representatives, and those representatives go to Washington with the same voice. And in Washington, they're able to pass laws and make the nation submit by using the rule of law. It's important. It's important that you get this. It's important that you get this. It's not just the rule of law that must be submitted to. We're right now in Black History Month. February is heralded as Black History Month. We honor the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and what he was able to do in this nation because he defied the rule of law, particularly Jim Crow law in the South. So it is not just the rule of law that must be held up, it is righteous law, because no law, unless it has the law of God as its foundation, is actually a legitimate law. No law, unless it has the both the character and the wisdom of God at its foundation, is a legitimate law. Everything else is shades of rebellion. So, but the whole term that's being used now, particularly among by politicians to the citizenry, is that you must honor the rule of law. Must honor the rule of law. If that were 100% true, then you and I wouldn't be sitting here. I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you about this. My audience would not be, if I could have an audience at all, it certainly would not be the mixed audience that you are. So what does the pulpit do except to acknowledge that God is the one who sets perimeters. And when those perimeters are violated, the sovereignty of the nation, the apportioned boundaries of their habitation, must be exercised. So 20 plus million came in. We're now under the leadership of an administration who wants to remove 20 plus million out of the country. Now, he's not the first one to do that. Presidents before him and other parties have, the Democratic Party has also spoken about removing citizens from the country and that people should expect boundaries to be well set and so forth. And yet, this time, because there's a greater understanding of just words that's filled with platitude, there's a greater understanding in this administration of what it all means, not just saying something to you that makes you happy. In fact, many of the things that are said won't make you happy, but they're good for the life, the long, healthy life of the nation and the restorative process of justice and mercy that the nation needs in order to survive. So here we are. We're removing people out of the nation now through immigration and customs enforcement. That's what ICE stands for, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. So how do they do it? This particular administration knows that we have 12,000 people among the millions that came forward illegally. All of them, it is a crime to enter the country illegally. A crime. It's not, it's not a misdemeanor as some would have you believe. The U.S. Code identifies crossing into the country illegally as a crime. But you have to say that a million times because the heads have been filled with the media, the falsely reporting media, that people just believe. If that person sitting at a desk says it, then it must be true. And they swallow it hook, line, and sinker. And that has been the treasured place of the press, because the press was supposed to be reporting the facts. But along the line, it shifted from the facts to an agenda, information that supported an agenda. So people believe that, but this is not true. If you enter the country, according to U.S. code, you are committing a crime. It's not a misdemeanor. It's a crime punishable. Even if you come on visa and you outstay your welcome, the welcome time of your visa, then there is that is a misdemeanor. But you can also go from there to being punishable by the law. So here we are in the midst of all that now. How does a preacher, how does a pulpit handle that? How does a pulpit establish in the minds of the people who they're speaking with every week that there are established boundaries for this nation? And this nation has the sovereign right to protect its boundaries. You understand it from a personal point of view because your home has boundaries. And you know that because that is your home, people don't have the right to walk into your home and do any and everything they want to do. It's like Don Lemon in the Don Lemon, or however you pronounce his name, went into the hospital in the church in Minnesota and disturbed them mid-service. And then he's gonna raise his hand. I'm a journalist. I'm just doing my job. Just doing my job. Just reporting. Yet there's footage of Don Lemon with that group talking about it being a traumatizing issue when they enter into the church. And not to mention it's a violation uh, of the FACE Act. That has nothing to do with him being a journalist. Journalists can break the law too, which is what he and another journalist did. But there's so much push going on. Why? Because what has been done to violate these boundaries of the sovereignty of the nation, there are folks who want it to stay that way because of apportionment. If these people stay, we get greater representation at the federal level. We'll be able to have our representation there. That's why the whole uh, redistricting thing in all of these states are now going on. What is a pulpit to do? Okay, here we go. I'm going to give you a few pointers about this from the position of the pulpit. Don't preach politics, preach principle. Don't preach and teach politics, preach and teach biblical principle. A principle guided people are a solid people. A politically guided people are a volatile people. So don't preach politics, preach principle. You have the word of God, you have insight, stand in your pulpit and preach principle, not leaning in the direction, listen to me, of popularity. Too many preachers that fill pulpits on a Sunday morning are way too conscious about the popularity level that they have with the people that are in the pew. Those people did not call you to ministry. Those people cannot cancel your call to ministry. They may be able, based on your ecclesiastical structure, they may be able to cancel your assignment at the place where you are, but they can't cancel the call of God on your life. Don't preach politics, preach principle. Now, if in your preaching principle it happens to align with a political space or disalign with a political space, that is not your problem. That is not your challenge. You have to do nothing to placate somebody's political feeling about what you're saying. You only have to speak the truth of the principles of this word. Did God establish boundaries? Has he established this nation? Has there been anything in the nation that points to the fact that God has established this nation? There's an abundance of evidence pointing to that fact. Okay, the Magna Carta, the document that was drawn up by those outside Massachusetts Bay before they landed on Plymouth Rock. Here in Virginia Beach, a second covenant made, of the words of our founding fathers that commits this nation to God. There's plenty of information, overwhelming information, that the nations was established by God. Now, has the nation done everything perfectly? No. The greatest stain on the tapestry of this nation was the time of slavery, and after that, the time of Jim Crow. With that having been said, there are few places in the world that refuted slavery, turned its ugly head back, that knocked the wind out of Jim Crow and made the nation come to a place where it recognizes the equality of all persons with respect to their value as persons. That is the heritage of the nation. That's why over 1 million people a year are integrated into the nation because they voluntarily came and walked through the process. And millions more desire to come because God has blessed the nation. It was Barack Obama's former pastor, Jeremiah Wright, who's infamous for saying, for God to damn the nation. What will the pulpit do? Will you, as men and women of God, preach principle and not politics? But if in the preaching of the principle, will you not flinch if the preaching of that principle happens to align with a certain party or it happens to disalign with a certain political party? It cannot matter to you. You must preach this anyway, teach this anyway, teach the principles of God. And again, don't lean toward popularity, because if you're saying only what makes you popular, your call is not honoring to God. Your call is appealing to men, to man. You will not stand before man in the last day, woman of God, man of God. You will not stand before man in the last day to give an account for what you did with the call of God that God placed on your life. You will stand before God for that. So you must take up this notion that I won't teach politics, I'll teach principle. And if that principle aligns with the political space, don't be afraid to say that aligns with this Republican or aligns with that Democratic idea. Don't be afraid to say it, because you're not saying it because it does. You're saying it and it just happens to line up with it. Don't go in the area of popularity. Don't try to let people like you or dislike you or celebrate you or denigrate you based on that. You're not called by them, you're called by God. So I'm going to take you to this video now. In this video, you're going to see a man get out of a truck here just south of Austin in Buda. Uh, there's not enough of a disturbance going on nationwide now for civil unrest to be a thing nationally. So the organizers have now enlisted your children. Your children. They've gone after your children. Students are now walking out of school all across the nation in an anti-ICE protest. Somehow, these educators, quote unquote, have convinced your sons and daughters that doing this is what is needed now in the nation to combat federal invasions in their cities. How much convincing does it take for a student to walk out of school? How much convincing does that take to say, okay, today we're in protest, and so we're not going to go to school, or we're going to walk out of the school today? And in many cases, the students that are walking out of school are also in the same population where those students are that cannot read at grade level. They don't have any reading skills commensurate with their grade level. They are socially inept. Many of them looking for something to be identified with that ups their social status on the campus or in their social environment. It is a poor choice to call on students to protest against the actions of the federal government that wants to uh, clear out immigrants that does not belong in the city, in our nation, and customs, immigration and customs enforcement. I saw this video piece. I'm gonna show you a little bit of video here in a minute, but I saw another piece where a guy was, I think it was in Minnesota, an ICE agent had, they have to put on masks now. Why do they have to put on masks? It's a dangerous it's a situation. It's dicey because I can probably go and find some uniform items like ICE and get out on the street in my plain. I have a truck, so I can get. I'm kind of rough looking. I can dress like ICE and go harass somebody, and they think it's ICE. So why don't they take their mask off? Let me tell you why they don't. Because of a thing called doxing. Let's say it's you. You're the ICE agent. You are on the other side of the screen. You're the ICE agent, and you're doing your job removing murderers and rapists and sex traffickers and drug traffickers, and you're removing them from the nation. And you're removing people who have crossed the border illegally. They have no legal right to be here. You're open. Everybody sees you, and somebody who doesn't want you doing that takes your information. They scandalize you for doing it, and then they take your information. They take your face and your address and your children and your wife or your husband, and they put it out there for the crazies to see and say, "Go stop these people." They got all your information. They go right to your home. You can't go get the illegal aliens if you're hospitalized. So they will do whatever possible to discourage immigration and customs enforcement. That's what ICE stands for, to discourage them from doing their job. So rather, in an effort to protect their own families, they put something over their face where they can't be doxxed. And then they go do that work. Is it the best solution? The only effective one that I know of. Does it come with risk and the risk of being misunderstood and all that? Absolutely it does. But the alternative is to let 20 plus million, 12,000 of whom we know are multi-person murderers, drug traffickers, sex traffickers, violent people that have come out of jails and insane asylums that are walking the street. It's crazy. And then to get your kids involved, telling your kids to protest the people who want to get those folks off the street. They have no idea what they're doing. Just like most other things in their lives, they don't have any idea about what they're doing. I want to just show this video. Now, I believe the man in the video lost it. I think he just got fed up with what the kids were doing. He went too far, in my opinion. I haven't seen the whole thing. But it looks like he shoved a young girl, and then the students jumped on him. And a couple of them tried to choke him out. They punched him. They kicked him. They uh, threw stuff at him. And he now is the one that has been arrested for assault with bodily injury. Take a look at this video. I'm gonna come back at the end of it and then we'll wrap this up for tonight. You've probably seen this, but here it is again.
And welcome back, everyone, to Live Now from Fox. I'm your host, Mike Page. Always great to be with you as we continue to roll on. Next up, we want to talk about, we've really been seeing these anti-ICE protests happening all over the country, even happening at schools, seeing students walk out in protest. But next up, we want to take you out to Texas, where a brawl broke out during one of these walkouts. Let's go out right now to Fox 7 Austin's Jenna King with the latest after this really chaotic scene played out.
Yeah, hey there. This video, of course, going viral on social media, sparking a lot of mixed reaction and, of course, raising a lot of questions. On Monday, several hundred students walked out of 5 Hayes CISD campuses, including Hayes High School, Live Oak Academy High School, Lehman High School, Barton Middle School, and Johnson High School. Walkouts also happening at Austin ISD, Pflugerville ISD, and Manor ISD.
Students have the right to protest and display their First Amendment rights in educational environments. That's exactly what these students were doing.
At Moe and Jean Johnson High School, things took a turn. The Buda Police Department says Monday afternoon the department became aware from a school resource officer about the walkout protest on RM 967. Just before 3 p.m., Buda officers were called to the intersection of RM 967 and FM 1626 for reports of a fight. Police say a verbal argument between a young woman on the sidewalk and an adult man in a vehicle escalated into a physical altercation involving multiple people. Several videos were posted to the Buda PD Facebook page. One video shows the man getting out of his truck and approaching the teens before the fight breaks out.
For us to have to fear for our safety is not usual, and for us not to know who's on our side, for us not to know who's going to come out of nowhere. You know, we think that in a city like Austin that we're safe, that people will side with us, but to see something like that happen, it shows that you will find counter-protesters anywhere.
The group falls to the grass. The man then gets up and walks back to his truck. The video shows students throwing water bottles at him. Students Engaged in Advancing Texas, or SEAT, is a student-led movement that works to get young people involved in the policy-making process at all levels of government. Group leaders say the altercation raises concerns about safety at future scheduled walkouts.
I think that there needs to be action taken on that, and I would like to see a full investigation done on how it started and what can be done to prevent this happening in the future, because like we discussed, these protests and walkouts are not going to stop anytime soon, and we need to create policies and create environments where they can continue to happen safely.
Hayes CISD saying it's aware of the video, but it's being investigated by Buda PD since it happened off campus. The district also confirms the man in the video was not a teacher or employee. In a separate walkout, 2 students were arrested, which caught the attention of Governor Abbott. Governor Abbott responded online saying in part, quote, "It's about time students like this were arrested. Harming someone is a crime, even for students. We are also looking into stripping the funding of schools that abandon their duty to teach our kids the curriculum required by law," end quote. Tuesday afternoon, Hayes County Judge Ruben Becerra addressed the fight, saying the adult in the video had a clear responsibility to exercise restraint. Becerra went on to say that the Hayes County DA's office is investigating. Yeah, like we mentioned, Buda PD says that the incident is, of course, under investigation and no arrests have been made. I'll send it back to you guys.
Jenna King, thanks so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. We always appreciate the updates all right here. All right, everyone, we'll take another 2-minute break. We'll be back with more top stories and headlines when we come back.
So, pastor, preacher, pulpiteer, what do you do now? A couple of pointers. As I said, preach principle and not politics. In the classroom, in an educational environment, students are there to learn the prescribed educational objectives. They are not there to protest. They are there to learn. Therefore, the governor has said, if the schools will agree to that, then they're also going to do it without funding. Suddenly the school would find the reasons to keep the children in school, I'm sure. So you as a parent, you also have a say in this matter, not just the pulpit, but your bully pulpit at home. You have a say in this matter as to how and when your children will participate, and what they'll participate. They are not in school to conduct walkouts. They're not on college campuses to conduct walkouts. They can oppose. They can do exercise their freedom of speech and their their right to picket, all of that on their own time, not on the time when they're delegated to do something else, not on the time when they're obligated to be involved in something else, like the educational rigors that's before them. No, they're not. No, they're not. They're not there to be used as pawns. We do some work in Mexico, missions work in Mexico. And the Mexican government is notorious for using teachers to support their own political ends. They will ship teachers from small little villages up in the mountains and ship them into cities and make them stand in blockades. And they don't really want to, but their jobs depend on it. These students are under such social pressure that if the administration says do it and they say not to do it, and they say, I'm not going to do it, they face such social pressure. And of course, neither do they get to be out of class when everybody else is out of class. I mean, it is a pitiful, lowly thing to start calling on kids to be used in these anti-ICE protests. Preach principle. A thing has a purpose. Your school has a purpose. Its purpose is not to incite your children into anti-ICE protests. But what it does do, and I'll close with this, what it does do, that video, is to let you understand as parents, there is a place that is not like that. It's what we're building right here in the city of San Antonio. It is Youth Empowerment School. In Youth Empowerment School, we will stick with the mission to release the power of God within these children, to reform their families in the launch pads, and to restore clear boundary lines for them to walk within. Release the power, restore families, and restore the clear boundary lines where they are able to walk with comfort and ease. Everything we're doing at Yes can be categorized in one or a combination of those three: to release the power within them, to reform families, to restore the paths of truth to their lives. And we're going to do it from a biblical Judeo-Christian perspective, 5 days a week, so that what you're teaching them at home will be reinforced at school. And we're the first, certainly first in a handful of schools that is using artificial intelligence the way that it should be used. You cannot be afraid of it, mom and dad. This is why, as much as we're doing for your child, we're also going to do for the families. The Empowerment Center Network is to help you as a parent keep pace with and even stay ahead of what is happening with your child. So your home becomes a launch pad that sends that child into their destiny, and they're not waiting to find out what is a result of what somebody else did with artificial intelligence. No, they're setting the pace themselves. They're learning with it, learning with those tools. I can't wait. 26th of February this month, we're giving you all the updates on Youth Empowerment School. It is a phenomenal thing that's happening, and it's where your child needs to be. So I want to invite you now to go to my website, my webpage. No, not my webpage, my Facebook page, and put a letter. You'll see a letter there that the Beacon has published on our behalf. The Beacon will soon have it in other forms, but it's on my Facebook page at the moment. And it's also in sabeacon.com. Go to sabeacon.com and read the article on the Youth Empowerment School there. It'll help explain to you why your child doesn't need to be involved in what the stuff you just saw. Your child needs to be in a place where they're being educated, where they're being inspired, where innovation in education is taking place. They're learning and growing to move to the top of the column as far as influencers are concerned. Many of your children are going to be already, I don't want to say too much, they're going to already be on the forefront of things happening by the time they graduate from Youth Empowerment School. So I highly encourage you, read that article, get ready to enlist your son or daughter into Youth Empowerment School. It's a whole new world for them, so much different than the chaos that you're seeing taking place in many public schools right now. Circle the date, 2 dates, February 14th at Tower City Church, 11220 Parambital, and the 26th, February 26th. That will be at 3806 Sunshine Ranch Road for the SABWB Mixer, where you'll get updates on what is happening with Youth Empowerment School, and you'll also know how to sign your child up. Get your child out of that cascading failure that is public schools. Many of you, you love teachers just like we do. You have faith in the teachers, but you have no faith in the bureaucracy around the educational process, and you need a fortress to put your child to grow and to learn to lead. Youth Empowerment School is for them. Be big. Thanks for being with me tonight. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye now.